Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Gyle here, and welcome back to the Forged Delights Forever promotional series. I've got some tip-top level ladder action coming away this afternoon, chaps, and not only that, I don't have any anecdotes, tidbits of information or news about the community to bring you beforehand, so we can roll straight on with the action. I'm sure that's welcome news. It's going to be featuring two of your favorite pros, and it's all going to go down on Waters of Isis. So hold on to your potatoes as we go on over to the game zone and see how these guys are going to get on. Now, I've casted 1,000,001 games of Fields of Isis, but couldn't tell you on the top of my head if we've casted any on Waters of Isis. Certainly if we have, it's only been one or two, so I think we can afford to treat it as if it's the first time. And I can go out on a limb immediately and suggest that this is likely to be a longer macro game. Why? Because if you thought that Fields of Isis was a turtly defensive map, well, you ain't seen nothing until you look at this bad boy. First off, the obvious reasons, of course, are the fact that the lowlands have been submerged by some sort of cataclysmic glacial disaster underwater, so your average land units aren't going to be able to traverse the terrain over to your opponent's base. They are going to have to be amphibious, and of course immediately recognize that naval play is going to be playing a key role in any game on this map. But then if you take a look at it, you can also see a ton of places and bottlenecks and choke points for your naval units to get hung up and come a cropper on any kind of AoE projectile or weapons. So essentially, it is a turtler's dream. Air is always going to play a key role. Let's take a look at our players anyway. Going first up here at the top left in the blue corner, it is none other than the quintessential Luzon. He's going UEF, and judging by what he said a moment ago in chat, doesn't seem very happy about it. UEF has no weapon. I'm guessing he's selecting random for the purposes of his ladder matches these days. That's why he's got stuck with it. I'm surprised to see both these guys having this in their map pool, actually. But anyway, he's opened first land, second air, and going third navy, so he's going to go for the full spectrum of units. And his opponent down here at the bottom right in the red corner, none other than RA's ZLO, and I've seen that he's dropped the RA off the front of his name. It's just ZLO again, so apologies for the misprint on the scrolling text at the beginning. Having said that, Luxy, of course, is not Luzon anymore. He's Luxy, but it's just because they like to make my life difficult. Anyway, he's opening dual first and second land, and then going second air, thinking better about putting it next to the hydro and instead placing it down here. I'm interested to hear what the thought was behind that. But anyway, the first unit out for Luzon, it's going to be a bomber, the first aggressive unit, and he's coming across to the top to ZLO's expansion. Going to get a bomb away on two clumped up engineers who have been working on that hydro. That work will cease, and so will their breathing. That is the end of those two. And in comes the bomber for a second pass, but instead of going for that other engineer, he's going to wheel south and go after ZLO's main base. Let's see what Luxy can get done here. Always pretty proficient with the airplay. Luzon, one more engineer down, another bomb away, just missing those two engineers as they skirt to the left, but another group of clumped up engies working on a max upgrade. Two of them down, another two down to around 25 HP. But that is a good first little bombing run from Luzon. Another bomber coming in to the expansion up top. This time, escorting interceptors coming in to assist from Luzon. And that bomb dropping woefully short. Still the UEF bomber having issues with dropping its bomb. It's been on the research and development table for the people at FAF forever. They still can't get it to work right. I think it's just the mechanics of the way it flies. I don't know, I'm no techie, but certainly there's more work to do. As you can see, a nice little dodge though there from ZLO, keeping Luxy's bombs at bay. And now we've got a little bit of an inti on inti fight up top. And we've got three naval factories in play over here to the west from Luzon. One sub already coming in for an early deny, and ZLO has a naval factory queued up, but he's going for torpedo launchers first, and that will be because ZLO has already scouted. You saw the scout plane going earlier, and he saw two very early naval factories, and he's worried about the deny. He does not want to get locked out of the naval game, so build capacity immediately starting to work on torpedo launchers in the bay, and will subsequently worry about production facilities later. That first Tiger Shark en route as we speak will not get too much done now that there's at least one torpedo launcher in the water. Nice play there from ZLO. It's why that early scout is so utterly essential. But look at the difference in expansion between Luzon and ZLO. Luxy bringing his ACU down to the expansion as well. Every single mech's under his control. The Hydro in play. Compare that to just one mechs and a Hydro. Of course, ZLO did lose a couple of the engineers initially to that early bombing run, but Luxy operating at an advantage, 49 mass to 41. Currently, that Tiger Shark didn't last long at all. You can see there he is sunken in the bay there as he slowly sinks to the bed. Some buoyancy issues there. There we go, finally turning to a wreck. But nice, solid work there from ZLO, getting those torpedo launchers online before anything else. I did incidentally start this running at +3 at the beginning, purely because there wasn't going to be any early lab play or anything like that, so I figured we could scoot through the early stages. It wasn't going to be anything we could worry about missing, but it looks like we've got some kind of drop prepared here from Luzon. 4 Lobos on board that courier. It's going to be tough to get it past those interceptors that are almost waiting for it, and they're going to spot it. Luzon needs to get it down quickly. They get a couple of shots off. We do have a Sky Slammer inbound, but unsuccessful. Those 4 Lobos landing on the ground. Of course, the Sky Slammers can be programmed to toggle ground, an incredibly useful little tactic that is. Luzon splits up his forces nicely. He's now got 1 alive at each end of the expansion. Fortunately for him, there are no Mantis on the ground yet, but he's taking an awful lot of fire from the Sky Slammers. What happened to that other one? Apparently, that other Lobo just evaporated. Didn't get reclaimed or anything. Might have been it there, but certainly came a cropper somehow. But overwhelming advantage in the air at the moment for Luzon, I think. And, of course, in the naval game and on eco, Luzon expanding well in this first game. Having said that, ZLO equalizes it and then overtakes. Curse of the Commentator coming into effect. Nice pass from a bomber there, taking down 3 units of build capacity, assisting that already upgraded naval factory for ZLO up to T2 as we speak. We also have T2 though at the other end from Luzon. These guys mirroring each other nicely. Of course, 3 more T1 factories to help him on his way into the naval game for Luzon. So much more aggressive stance. No static D in the Bay Area. Hasn't needed it, of course. 1 destroyer in that pack versus the solitary Barracuda. He does have to worry about these torpedo launchers. As the frigates stroll into the mouth of the harbour. The Trident's down, there goes the other. And the forward torpedo launcher down as well, but it's going to be crucial who wins this battle between the destroyer and the Barracudas. Another Barracuda out now. That's Luzon's advantage over. He's going to have to pull out. Doesn't manage to pick off that most northerly torpedo launcher. It's a costly little attack there from Luzon. He was hoping to deny ZLO's navy. It is such a blow if you can shut someone out of the naval game on this map. 1 governor in play for Luzon. There goes the forward intel for ZLO, but he's going to have to back up. Barracuda's encroaching as we speak. Shield boat will afford him some protection if he can attain the power to keep that running. And he's not going to. Barracudas can finish it off. He needs to get more destroyer power on the field to counter those Barracudas. Far too many as of the moment. 2 destroyers on the field versus the 4 Barracudas now. Let's take a look at the reclaim game. 7,900 approaching 8,000 banked so far for Luzon. And just over 8,000 for ZLO. These guys matching each other nicely. Basically coming down to 8,500 being the starting amount of mass, but of course that recent little naval fracas right at the mouth of ZLO's harbour is going to afford him a little bit of an advantage. Field capacity coming out as we speak to tidy that up. Luzon airlifting a few engineers to the central reservation and immediately throwing together a TAC missile launcher. And this could cause some problems for ZLO. No zappers in play at the expansion. We've got one down here, another one on the way, and another one on the way up here. He is just going to get that up in time before that first missile is launched. Indeed, there's one in the silo. Luzon not firing it straight away. Interceptor scouting for any possible places for which to snipe that missile away. Is it even going to clear the base mounted? Yep, that clears quite nicely and goes straight on over to that T2 mechs in the back. That will hamper ZLO's expansion slightly. Luzon not going to be able to cut it any finer than that without these zappers picking it off. Now more zappers being thrown together further up, so very limited success on that. Might have had more success if he hadn't have pushed forward with that governor quite so early. It set ZLO on a path to be wary of missile attack. And ZLO up to T3 on his ACU. He's got that useful little mod that tells us when he's doing it. Certainly makes my life a little bit easier. Now another round of scouting for ZLO. Question is, what is he got planned? Might think it's a peculiar decision to go T3 on a map like this, but don't forget this is the Cybran Commander, and if he hasn't already got it, he'll have access to that torpedo launcher upgrade, and the T3 will give him hit points to play with, which will allow him to keep him in the fight. And yes, he has nanite torpedo launcher online, so that turns the ACU into a significantly powerful underwater killing machine. And not only that, he of course has the ability to spam up harms, which are insanely powerful. And that's going to be a nasty surprise for Luzon if and when he next decides to attack. Luxie looking pretty strong in the sky. See, normally late game you'd be thinking UEF on a water map, large advantage, but just the very nature of this, when it comes to naval play, the Cybran are the turtlers really. That really does play into the advantage on a map like this. We have T3 on the field for Luzon, who is going straight for a battle cruiser, I believe. For a Neptune. We also have T3 on the field for ZLO, who's sticking with just the 2 factories at the moment, but is already pumping out the Galaxy-class battleships. 21.5 minutes gone in this game already. I am running this at +3, that is to negate the speed of development. Obviously, like we said before, this is going to be a turtley game. But starting to see the first battle cruisers rolling off now for Luzon. One Neptune on the field, and the next is going to be a Summit, so he's seemingly alternating between battle cruiser and battleship. He's going to get one T3 engineer out for his trouble, and then he's got 10 Summit class battleships queued up. Lots of airlifting of build capacity around the place as Luzon adjusts his priorities. Now, could we have ZLO getting bold here? Could do with moving his galaxies up a little bit, maybe up to up here, so some of those shells are at least testing the bulwark boats, the bulwark shield ships, helping deplete some of that charge in case a fight does kick off. Two more on the field already, and just look at that, 3 harms right in the mouth of ZLO's base. It's going to be hard to dislodge. Of course, UEF arguably the best at killing the harms using their Summit class battleships and the AoE of 3 that they've got, the largest in the game for any battleship. 1 Galaxy class out already and another under pressure down to below 5,000 hit points. Battle cruiser just zapping away. That's good, solid work from Luzon. Let's slow this up a little bit. You've got to think that some of those are likely to be harms. He does gain the advantage here out in the field, which looks like he might. So you want to be careful and not just sail directly into them, as he'll immediately lose that advantage. Certainly not the most attractive of maps. Horrible shot. What is that? Is that a megalith under construction? Yes, it is. Of course, megaliths equipped with torpedoes and torpedo defense, and not only that, sporting an outrageous amount of hit points to boot. So I think it's something that's difficult for Luzon to deal with, but at the moment he's doing fine. Another Galaxy on just 25 hit points, surely about to go down. Just one more return shell, in it comes, boom. ZLO has lost 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 galaxies over the course of that conflict. To what looks like a handful of destroyers, shield boats, and maybe a battle cruiser for Luzon. Certainly went in his favour, but 1 Atlantis completed. Luzon unlikely to be using them for their primary function, as well, it depends on what your definition of primary function is. More often than not, you'll see them used in the larger games for aircraft production, just purely because of their build speed, but would be actually likely here to be using it as a proper submarine, of firepower to emerge. But not only is Luzon now at the experimental phase, so is ZLO, and coming in with his megalith, and look the amount of torpedoes that come off that bad boy. Just watch those Summits fire their guns all day. There's something about the sound effect, maybe. Another Atlantis on the way for Luxy. Certainly his focus needs to be more now on submersible power. He's got to be concerned about that crab that's taken virtually no damage so far in its traversing of this distance, and is sitting essentially right in front of Luzon's forces. The crab on the way, and that is 60% complete. 30 minutes gone, game time of this one so far. units hovering out over the top for ZLO. Let's take a look at actually who's got the larger number of interceptors in this one so far. Luxy sitting on 29, ZLO sitting on 52, so significant advantage in the air as well for ZLO. That Summit on very low health, 3,400 HP of 51,000. There it goes. This is bad times all round for Luzon. He's also pretty significantly behind on eco, 450 mass, 468 mass now for ZLO to Luxy's 396, 21,000 banked in reclaim so far for Luzon, 40,000 banked for ZLO. So after that nice comfortable start for Luzon, things not looking so good now, but I may have spoken too soon about the air power. Luzon switching it up to T3, and something had to be done. Certainly a lot of ASFs on the field, because that prompted an upgrade from ZLO anywhere, as he's sticking at T1, content to extend his advantage in the sea. Is Luzon working on any kind of air-to-ground? I don't see any broadswords or ambassadors in production. No strap bombers, gunships on the way. We do have a strategic missile launcher which is partially completed. Luzon has abandoned that for the moment. Left that on 2,300 hit points out of 4,000. To work on power. No doubt we'll go back to construction in just a moment, but concerned the amount of power he's putting out, and he's queued up a lot, in fact. Air, obviously, the plan of the day, and there we have the ambassadors, the strap bombers in production from all three of those T3 facilities up top. Quantum Gateway on the way as well. Not a bad decision on a map of this type. Now we're seeing some more T1 naval factories spamming together there from ZLO. Another crab, 60% done and climbing. But would you look at this, the forward two crabs from ZLO, one of them down to 33,300 hit points admittedly, the other one though still well in the green on 94,000, just sitting in the middle of Luzon's fleet. A couple of T2 torpedo launchers, some tsunamis kicking around here for Luzon, but he needs to get more submersible naval power. You can see a lot of it rover stations in play, assist Luzon a little bit, getting that build capacity mobile around the field. See a lot of that these days. Nice to see Luzon employing it. It's almost like Luzon accepts these units are going to die, so he needs to bring them in now to cause what damage he can with them. So needs to be a little bit careful. He could potentially have his commander under threat if and when they decide to ground fire these harms, which they may well be thinking of doing. Going first at the moment for the Myrmidon, the SAM. Harms opening up on that forward Neptune. Just look at the HP evaporate. Down below 10,000 and falling incredibly quickly. The range on them is just so overbearing. Down goes the battle cruiser, and it's this forward summit's turn next. It has at least bought Luzon a little bit of time. Those crabs have returned to help finish them off, but it's a hell of a gamble using 4 battleships and a battle cruiser as a suicide diversion. They have managed to take out one of the harms. You see the damage they do when they land on top of them. Doesn't take too much to kill them. Not 100% sure if it was changed recently. They seem to be hovering closer to the surface than they used to. Maybe some clever hard copy guy who's in the know can post in the comment section below if that was changed in a recent patch. It must have been. Atlantis on the way, being thrown together nice and quickly. Handful of ambassadors gathering down here, but ZLO will be well aware of that. He's got scout planes flying over the top. We'll see that building up. What have we got here? T3 artillery on the way, a disruptor. One over a quarter done now, and another planned for the other side of that ion reactor. And that could really throw the proverbial cat amongst the pigeons. But look at what we've got here. All 3 of those harms dismantled. Luzon now powering his way back into the harbour area. I really can't say I saw this. Summits, so incredibly tanky as they are. It's taking a little bit too much time for those crabs to chew through, but they will eventually chew through. Atlantis working on them at the moment. At least that's taken ZLO's comm off the production of that 4th megabot there. Siren class cruisers being dispatched by the by. Atlantis is about to go down. Some craving bulwark shield boats, but ZLO has been hit already by some incoming fire. Is that from the Atlantis? Potentially, hard to say, but he's down to around 7,500 hit points. Strap bombers coming in over the top, looking like they were thinking about crown firing, but oh no, that is unfortunate. Didn't get the bombs away. Bad times there for Luzon. Couldn't micro effectively, and these Myrmidons stationed around here just slaughtered them. They got hung up on the edge. TAC missiles inbound from that one that launcher's still loitering on the central reservation from earlier, and an Omni actually in quite a vulnerable position. It'll allow them to see pretty much everything that's going on. Certainly will give him any clues about any monkey lords that might be coming his way or anything like that, so kudos on that side of things, but still a risky place to have it. A bunch of Storks up here. We have T2 torpedo bombers. Who's no doubt feeling like he's going to need them soon. And ZLO just switching up to fully submerged naval power. Look at the amount of Barracudas on the field suddenly, supporting those 3 crabs out front, which are just going to soak up so much damage. An incredibly difficult matchup, but Luzon doing a nice job eco-wise. Would you look at that, 521 mass against ZLO, admittedly having critical power issues at the moment. Should see that recover somewhat now that that's filled up. There we go, 553, so Luzon still just behind, but it's nowhere near the deficit we saw earlier, which seemed to be, if memory serves, around 60 to 70 mass not so long ago. So Luzon having recovered nicely. Storks incoming, going for that lead megalith. Did quite a lot of damage to it. Drops it down into the red. 25,000 hit points left on that puppy. Of course, these sirens back here picking off torpedo bombers nice and quickly, and it's going to be enough to persuade ZLO to back up. 7,000 hit points now left on the lead and falling down below 10. ZLO gets his interceptors involved, but they're not going to be much of a match for Luxie's T3. Immediately pounces and tidies it all up. That lead now rear Megalith so close to death. Luxie pursuing as quickly as he can with those Atlantis. Luzon's advantage in the air at the moment. He's going to want to deal with those cruisers at the same time so we can keep those stalks in play. Finally that Megalith succumbs. Now this one at the back to around 25,000 hit points and falling. It's not, however, the one that Luzon seems to be prioritizing. Solitary Neptune picking off what cruisers he can. Nice work getting in, getting a kill or two, and then getting out before the Barracudas can lock in. How are we going with that nuke launcher? We're online and we're about 60% of the way to a completed nuke. That, of course, could change everything. Well-placed nuke in the center of ZLO's fleet. Could be the game-changing play that Luzon needs. $35,600 mass banked so far for Luxie. 68,000 banked so far for ZLO, who's doing a much better job of getting that mass in. Having said that, look at the distribution of wrecks. It's a lot easier for him to do so. 43 minutes gone in this one so far. If you can kill off these cruisers, you might be able to get in some of these rover drones to get some reclaim on over here. Definitely is an unusual game, has to be said. Those summits down, the other one not going to fare too well either. And as a horde of Barracudas swarms into Luzon's base, Luzon's build capacity switches to throwing together T1 torpedo launchers as quickly as they can at both sides of the bay. One summit just about to complete. And so many T2 subs coming in. And not only that, two crabs that if they make their way onto land, they could cause all kinds of problems. But what have we got here? A satellite out for Luzon, harassing. That's what must have done the damage to this artillery installation, which has only recently been completed. See, already causing problems down here, but we have a Scathis on the way that's already into the green, and that could cause horrendous problems for Luzon. And I like this strategy. ZLO isn't going to keep plugging away at this. If this doesn't work, which I suggest it probably isn't going to, it might cause some damage for Luzon, but it's not going to kill him off. Luzon will react to this, so ZLO doesn't continue to press this form of attack, but instead switches it up to standoff. Really is the key to these kind of games. Keep your opponent guessing and keep your tactics changing. Lead Megalith and his guns now above water, but some very nicely placed Ravagers on the shoreline there will cut their way through the armor. Wasn't a lot of HP left on that forward megalith. Second one coming into range now. You really see the damage that they get done. Strap bombers coming in as well overhead, causing problems. But the Scathis, just 400 hit points from completion. Disruptor covered nicely by shield. That other disruptor was abandoned. Remember, we have one queued up next to that ion reactor. Luzon's base just not well covered. And it looks now that the nuke launcher could be primary target, and it's so close to getting a nuke online as well. That could be a painful loss, and there it goes. As the fusions go critical, Luzon says 95% done on his missile. So painful, and now we have the Novaks under pressure, and the Scathis is online. This is going to be a major problem for Luzon. He's going to want to get some strats together as soon as possible. A couple of wayward shells landing in the core base now, but I think he's going to want to stick to the expansion. He's going to want to take out the Novaks and as many of the mexes and power plants as he can on this side. Keep softening it up, keep all of the pressure from the two artillery pieces trained on the same bit of land. Stork's counter-attacking on ZLO's fleet on his side of the map. Meanwhile, another megalith on the way. Not so much build capacity on it as there was earlier, so it'll probably take a little bit longer to complete. Another 4 summits coming out. He's facing off against subs again. Luzon's going to want to get that Atlantis involved. And that is a tough loss for Luzon, who sunk so much eco into all of this, and now it is nothing but wasteland of wrecks. ASFs flying overhead. Luzon doesn't want to throw them away though, needs to be careful, drifting too close to what is a very large bank of Myrmidons at the front of ZLO's core base. 1, 2, 3 strap bombers on the way now. That was definitely a scouting pass. In they come. Needs to be careful though. Height maps always play havoc with bombers. In come the ambassadors. 1, 2, 3 shells landing, not enough. 2,300 hit points left on that Scathis, but the summits should be enough to finish it off. There it goes. The question is, has too much damage been wrought on Luzon's base? He's now giving up the best part of 100 mass to ZLO per tick. And that is an unacceptable advantage for ZLO if Luzon wants to come out on top of this one. Luzon throwing together a ton of T1 naval factories. I wonder if we're going to see mass T1 subs, mass Tiger Sharks to come out to counter these Barracudas. Moment, it's all build capacity that's coming out. At least there's a silver lining if you want to see one. There's a lot of mass now sitting in the Bay Area for Luzon, who's harvesting it as we speak. He's shot up to 63,500 mass banked so far, but still that is half of what we're seeing out from ZLO over the course of this one, plus of course the massive deficit he's facing from mined mass, generated mass. Very peculiar game indeed, this one. Another wave of stalks out for Luzon. If they can get the right angle, they should be alright to deal some damage to these subs. They're heading home at great speed, trying to get under the cover of another wave of sirens that are pouring out of that bay. ZLO launching a wave of scouts coming in now, having a look at what he's dealing with. You can see the full circuit train there. Luzon rebuilding his Novaks and getting involved in the RT race as well. He's going to start work on a Duke, but I doubt he's going to finish it. Those disruptors, or the disruptor I should say, there is another one on the way, but it's nowhere near complete yet. That disruptor trained on Luzon's base. There goes the Novaks once again, shielding, arriving too late to save it. Normally late game you'd never usually give Cybran's an advantage, but it's just the way this map works, I feel, the shape of it. He's into Cybran's hands a little bit better. Having said that, the harms haven't played a huge role. ZLO rebuilding his Scathis. It's the megaliths more than anything. Sheer amount of hit points under the water. With, of course, the torpedo defense. It's not just their torpedoes, remember, but their ability to counter incoming fire. Personally, if it was up to me, I'd like to see the Atlantis, its underwater firepower beefed slightly. Just looks like it should be more potent in the seas. That's an aesthetic opinion rather than anything based on hard figures, but well, it's also based on a feeling. But now the air production facilities under pressure from ZLO. Disruptors going after that top factory there. And we have the second disruptor online, and it is such a pity that that nuke didn't get completed. It could have dramatically changed this game. Imagine one right in here. ZLO likely to have moved his comm out of there, but with all of the naval facilities out of commission, and goodness only knows how much build capacity out of commission as well. Luzon trying to enter the RT race, but he's starting from behind against an opponent with a better economy. Just don't see it happening. A couple of ambassadors coming in, going after ZLO's nuke launcher, which I have to confess I missed, and successful in getting it. Nice work there by Luzon. Both these players eternally worried about a potential nuke strike. Novaks rebuilt for the third time. But I just don't see Luzon able to get enough shielding together to stay in this race. I think perhaps Luzon knows it as well. Bringing forward some of his summits on what can only be described as a bit of a suicide run. Perhaps hoping to land a few crucial shells in amongst this build capacity. Another wave of crabs out here, and Luzon losing build capacity to them as they're just trying to hoover up some of this mass that's been deposited around the field. ZLO up to 200,000 mass banked in reclaim. Luzon on 168 to 170-ish. Too shabby. ZLO exclaiming, "Oh my god." Local chat. Actually looked like he was trying to go for the power grid there. Admittedly, a decent chain reaction could probably kill that disruptor, being as it's flanked by two of those ion reactors. Shielding might take the edge off the explosion a little bit. Once again, ZLO looks like he's on the march, and with two more crabs incoming as well. 3 up at the front, a ton of barracudas, sirens on the way as well. This doesn't look good for Luzon. It's got some small banks of torpedo launchers dotted about the place, but that's just not going to be enough to stop anything really. Atlantis are in construction, but not near enough eco or build capacity to throw them together in time. Going to be hearing storks dropping torpedoes in your sleep tonight. Barracudas sail to Luzon's base. 56 minutes gone in this one so far. Luzon moving his heavily shielded comm at that, out of the Bay Area, and is starting to produce ravages in the core of his main base. Obviously concerned about the march of the crabs, which is bearing down on him very quickly indeed. Most of the barracudas have been thinned out. 2 T3s, my friend, is what you're facing currently. Crabs not looking to hang about in the harbour. They want to get straight out onto land and chase down Luxie's comm. He's retreated to the top left of his main base. Instantly, units working on the Ravagers get popped as the other crabs emerge. There is literally no way out for Luzon now. Luzon on an upgrade up here at the back. Actually, that's a teleport, in fact. No, it's not. Excuse me. He hasn't got it on. I don't know what he's upgrading to, but it makes no difference. Luxie blasted out and overwhelmed. A really, really strange one. Very turtly. Hope it wasn't too slow for you guys, but it is nice to show a bit of variation in the games. But Luzon, I hope you're not too... it's two I've shown recently with Luzon coming a cropper. I hope he doesn't hate me for it, but the amount of games we've casted here with Luzon just destroying everybody else on the field, I'm sure he won't mind. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed that. As always, more to come from me in the future. In the meantime, stay well and stay safe. This is Gyle, signing out.